Reborn. Henry stood at the door of the private room. Inside, a chorus of amazed voices sounded. Patricia, you're incredible. How did you make Henry fall for you so deeply, never leaving your side? Yeah, the mighty Henry, from the wealthy circle, following you around like a shadow. What do you think his reaction would be if he knew you had twins with your first love? Patricia's voice was filled with smugness. So what if he knows? He'll still obediently listen to me and host the grandest wedding in the world. And not only that, he'll give our Lynn family 100 million in dowry, or I won't marry him. Chapter 1. Listening to Patricia's words, Henry couldn't help but let out a bitter laugh inside. In his past life, he truly loved Patricia without any bottom line. After they got married, Patricia had ruthlessly trampled on his love and dignity. She poured all her energy into her little family, even transferring the assets of the Law family to her first love. By the time Henry discovered all of this, it was too late. He would never forget lying on the bed, his life hanging by a thread, while Patricia stood at the bedside with her family of 4, mocking him without a care. Henry, you've always just been a substitute, I found. That's when he realized he was nothing but a pathetic stand-in. Now, heaven had given him a second chance at life, and he swore he would never make the same mistakes again. The bitter smile on Henry's face disappeared, replaced by a determined look. Today, he had come to pick up Patricia for a wedding dress fitting. Back then, Patricia had said she wanted to be the most beautiful bride in the world. Henry had spent over 10 million hiring top wedding dress designers from abroad and even went as far as learning some craftwork himself, just to collaborate with the designers to create the world's most beautiful and unique wedding dress. Now, the dress was complete, but she was no longer worthy of wearing it. While Patricia was still inside showing off, Henry turned around and left decisively. Sitting in his car, his phone rang. Henry, the wedding venue is almost set up. When will you and your fiancé come to have a look? Henry snapped back to reality. If he remembered correctly, there were only 7 days left until his wedding with Patricia. In order to fulfill his promise to Patricia, he had booked all the city's large screens, TV stations, and even taxis to broadcast their moments of happiness. He had even edited all the video footage himself, frame by frame. Now, the entire capital knew how much he loved Patricia, and he had kept his word, making Patricia the most enviable bride in the world. We're canceling the wedding, Henry said firmly. On the other end, the voice immediately panicked. The wedding preparations alone had already cost Henry over 10 million. Henry, are you serious? Do you think I have time to joke with you? The person fell silent for a moment, then cautiously asked, do you need us to dismantle the wedding setup? No need. I'm only canceling the wedding with Patricia. Everything else stays the same. After hanging up, Henry instructed someone to send a generous dowry to the Lynn family. But this time, the dowry was not for Patricia. It was for her half-sister, Fiona. Chapter 2. After driving away, his phone rang again. It was Patricia calling. He hesitated for a moment but still decided to answer. Henry, the gathering with my best friends just ended. Now I'm giving you a chance to redeem yourself. Come pick me up, she said. In the background, he could hear the gasps of her friends. Henry didn't have to guess. He knew Patricia's friends were fawning over her. Sorry, I'm not free right now, Henry replied flatly. Patricia's playful laughter quickly followed. Henry, you're still such a child, always trying to surprise me. Henry raised an eyebrow in confusion. Don't think I don't know. You've already sent the dowry to my house. But that billion-dollar gift, you need to transfer it to my personal account. I'll send you my bank details later. Oh, and it must be in by tomorrow. If not, I won't be happy. If I'm not happy, there won't be a beautiful bride at your wedding. In the background, Patricia's friends could be heard chiming in. Wow, I really admire you. Patricia, you really know how to manage a man. When will we be able to do the same? Don't worry, there won't be a bride like you at my wedding, Henry said coldly. Henry, if I'm not your bride, who else could it be? Stop with the little tricks. I know what you're thinking. Come on, is this your idea of a surprise since you didn't come pick me up tonight? Henry couldn't help but roll his eyes before hanging up the phone. Back inside the house, Henry looked at the newly decorated wedding room. He had arranged everything himself, but now it seemed a bit too much. He started tearing down some of the decorations. When it came time to prepare the wedding for Fiona, he would make sure to start fresh. As he was in the middle of tearing things down, thunder rumbled, and soon, heavy rain began to pour outside. Suddenly, the door opened. There were hurried footsteps, and Patricia's voice rang out. Henry, what do you mean by this? It's pouring rain outside. Didn't you notice? Not only did you not come pick me up, but you didn't even call to check on me. If you keep acting like this, I might reconsider whether we should even have our wedding. Then, there was the sound of something being thrown around. Henry couldn't help but laugh. You hung up on me without my permission, and now I'm almost being ridiculed by my friends. Can you stop being so childish? Seeing that Henry didn't respond, Patricia marched into the room. She pushed open the door and was shocked to see the wedding decorations being torn down. Her expression quickly changed. What's going on? Why did you tear everything down? It's nothing. I just don't like the decorations anymore, Henry said indifferently. Well, at least you know better. I've always thought the decorations were tacky. You should hire a top wedding designer to redo it. Otherwise, when my friends see this, I'll be embarrassed. A faint smile spread across her face. I'll forgive you for tonight since you're trying so hard. Chapter 3. Patricia wore a satisfied smile. She looked at Henry with a condescending gaze. Just as Henry was about to speak, her phone rang suddenly. When she saw the caller ID, a hint of panic flashed across her face. Is it him? Henry asked. That's none of your business, Patricia said coldly. I'm yours now. You don't need to be jealous. You know, I don't like men who get jealous too easily. She continued talking to herself, not noticing Henry's indifferent and cold expression. She turned to step outside to take the call, and a minute later returned. Kevin's child is sick. He's struggling to take care of Lynn alone. I need to go check on them. Patricia seemed to sense that something was wrong and added, Kevin and I have been over for a long time. Ever since he came back from abroad, he's been taking care of the kids alone, and his health isn't great either. Okay, I understand. Go ahead, Henry said, completely uninterested. Patricia's face showed displeasure. What's with this attitude? I thought you were someone who cares about children. I even plan to have one with you. If you keep acting like this, how can I trust you to have my children? My children don't need to come from you, Henry replied flatly. Henry, don't use words like that to provoke me. Don't forget, our wedding is in 7 days. Everyone knows our families are getting married. If I don't show up, the Law family will have a hard time. I'm giving you 3 days to think this over. Don't come looking for me in the meantime. With that, she left in a hurry. Henry couldn't help but raise his hand to his forehead, utterly speechless. Patricia had clearly been feeling guilty when she said that, trying to create a little trouble for Henry so that she could feel justified in leaving to meet Kevin. How had he not noticed this before? Now, it seemed both shameless and laughable. After Patricia left, Henry changed the password to the house's smart lock. He also called the cleaning lady to come and tidy up the entire room. 3 hours later, the entire wedding suite was completely refreshed. As for the redecorating, it had always been part of his plan, but this time, it was for Fiona. Once finished, Henry picked up his phone and saw a post from Kevin on his social media. True love is when she can be there anytime I need her. The post was accompanied by a video. In the video, Patricia was playing the role of a virtuous wife, running around the house taking care of everything. From watching Lynn to cooking, she was a completely different person from the one Henry had seen. Henry sneered and silently gave it a like. In his previous life, he had done everything for Patricia, allowing her to become the matriarch of the Law family. He had even handed over full control of the Law group to her to satisfy her desire to be a strong, independent woman. But in the end, all of it had been part of her plan. She had never loved him. Henry turned off his phone, preparing to rest, but Patricia's call came in again. Henry, what's the meaning of this? Kevin's post was just a joke. Why did you like it? Kevin is feeling guilty now, apologizing nonstop, and the kids are crying nonstop. Is this the outcome you wanted? Chapter 4. You'd better apologize to Kevin right now, or I'll seriously reconsider whether I want to marry you. I don't like petty men. Patricia's voice was loud and irritating. Also, I've already agreed to marry you, so stop trying to get my attention in this way. It's not going to make me like you more. In fact, it's just disgusting. Do you understand? Patricia kept talking nonstop. Fine, I got it, Henry replied, unable to stop himself from rolling his eyes as he heard her rant. He raised his hand to unlike the post, not understanding how he could have been blind enough to marry such a woman in his past life. Now, looking back, it was truly laughable. At least in this life, Henry had finally realized who he truly wanted to marry. The next day, Henry went to the bridal shop to look at wedding dresses. Once everything was confirmed, he planned to have the dress delivered to Fiona so she could try it on. That way, any adjustments could be made in advance if needed. However, as soon as he arrived at the store, he heard voices of admiration and excitement. Kevin, do I look beautiful in this wedding dress? This is designed by one of Milan's top bridal designers. It just arrived in the country, and I wanted you to see it first. She was wearing the wedding dress Henry had spent millions on, striking poses in front of Kevin. Wow, Mom looks so beautiful. Before Kevin could speak, the two children beside him burst into cheers. Mom, you look like the most beautiful bride in the world in that dress. The two kids, probably around 3 or 4 years old, clearly resembled Patricia. In his past life, Henry had met these children early on, but at the time, he hadn't suspected anything. Looking back now, it was all love that had blinded him. Kevin smiled. Patricia, you really do look amazing. This dress is like it was made just for you. Henry walked into the store, his face as dark as a storm cloud. When the bridal shop manager saw Henry, he quickly greeted him with a smile. Henry, welcome. Who gave you permission to let someone else wear the wedding dress? Henry's voice was cold. The manager's smile quickly faded. She said the dress was for her from you. At that moment, the whole family of 4 turned their eyes to Henry. Kevin's face flashed with panic. Patricia, what do we do now? Don't panic, just watch me, Patricia said, her tone full of confidence. She marched toward Henry, holding up her skirt in anger. Henry, didn't we agree that for these 3 days you wouldn't look for me? But here you are, chasing me down. You really disgust me. Henry ignored her and asked, who gave you permission to wear this dress without my approval? Patricia's expression changed as she quickly realized that Henry had probably overheard something he shouldn't have. However, she wasn't afraid. She believed that even if Henry had heard everything, he would still tolerate it because of how much he loved her. With that thought, she boldly retorted, what do you mean? Why can't I wear the wedding dress you ordered for me? Are you angry because I wore it in front of Kevin? Can't you just be a bigger man and stop being so petty? Hearing Patricia's words, Henry finally understood just how shameless and bottomless she was. Just now, those 2 kids called her mom, and she thought Henry hadn't heard. Chapter 5. Take it off, Henry said coldly. Kevin, who had been standing nearby, suddenly spoke up. Henry, this is all my fault. Please stop arguing. It's all my fault. Patricia said the dress was from you, so I thought I'd help her out by giving her some feedback. I'll take the kids and leave right away, Kevin said as he reached to pick up the twins. But just as he was about to leave, the 2 children glared at Henry with fierce looks. You bad guy. Why are you bullying mommy and daddy? One of them shouted. Yeah, you're a big bad guy, bullying my mommy. The other child chimed in. Patricia and Kevin immediately rushed over to cover the children's mouths, their eyes flashing with panic, but they quickly regained their composure. Kevin's face turned pale as he explained. Henry, please don't misunderstand. Before he could finish, Patricia interrupted. So what if they called me mom? These kids don't have a mother, and they're at an age where they're longing for maternal love. What's wrong with them calling me mom? I'm a woman. It's natural for me to feel motherly love. Henry, if you don't even have that kind of compassion, then you really need to rethink yourself. I don't want to marry a cold-hearted, heartless person. Patricia, now occupying the moral high ground, began to criticize Henry. Henry looked at Patricia, utterly speechless. I said, take it off. At this point, Henry couldn't care less about Patricia's actions anymore. Forget the fact that she had 2 children for another man. Even if she had a whole football team of children with someone else, it wouldn't bother him at all. Patricia was completely furious. It's just a wedding dress. I don't even care about it. But listen, if you want me to take it off now, don't even think about asking me to wear it on our wedding day. With that, Patricia stormed off toward the fitting room. When she came out, she had stomped on the dress, and the lace and diamond decorations were all twisted into a mess. The store manager rushed forward to stop her, but it was too late. The dress was nearly ruined. We're leaving, Kevin. Patricia held one child while Kevin carried the other. Before they left, Patricia turned back to Henry with a final threat. Henry, this time I'm really angry. I'm going to punish you. Think carefully about what you're going to do to make it up to me. And just so you know, if the gift isn't worth at least 10 million, don't even bother showing up to see me. With that, they hurriedly left. Henry didn't even look at their retreating backs. He lowered his head to look at the nearly destroyed wedding dress. His expression darkened. The bridal shop manager quickly apologized. Henry, we're so sorry for this. We'll do everything we can to fix the dress. No need. A dress that someone else has worn is no longer suitable for her, Henry said with a cold tone. Do you still have the receipt for the dress? Yes, we do, the manager replied quickly, signaling for an employee to fetch it. Henry took the receipt and looked at it. A wedding dress worth millions. He pulled out his phone and made a call. Lawyer. Henry, what can I do for you? I need you to file a lawsuit for me, Henry said succinctly. He explained the situation briefly to the lawyer over the phone and asked the bridal shop to provide the security footage showing Patricia ruining the dress. Since Patricia had been demanding a $10 million gift, this would be the gift Henry prepared for her. He hoped it would surprise her. Chapter 6. After taking care of everything, Henry looked at the bridal shop manager. Do you have any other wedding dresses? Currently, we don't have any dresses at this price range. The manager seemed a bit nervous, her mind racing. Henry's expression stiffened, and the manager quickly continued. I heard that the top bridal designer, July, recently released a wedding dress with a publicly available price, though it's quite expensive. How much? Henry asked sharply. 3 million. The manager cautiously mentioned the figure. Order it for me. I'll send you the size later. Henry's tone was direct and to the point. The manager was taken aback but didn't dare hesitate. Henry, don't worry. This time, we will definitely meet your expectations and ensure the dress is well taken care of. Good. 3 days later, the front page headline of the A City News was full of buzz. Law Group's Henry Near's wedding. Spends a fortune on a city's top luxury mansion for his beloved. Milan's top bridal designer July's masterpiece, Starry Rain, sold to Henry for 30 million. Mr. Law angry over Sky Heart diamond ring worth millions bought for his lover. For a moment, several news articles about Henry's extravagant affection for his wife spread wildly across the internet. Top comments. This is the real-life version of the domineering CEO everyone talks about. Wow, so jealous. I'm wholeheartedly supporting Mr. Law. Mr. Law isn't just rich, he's also handsome and loyal. The woman who gets to marry him must have saved the world in her past life. I'm so envious of the woman who will become Mr. Law's wife. Meanwhile, on Patricia's social media, related videos also started appearing. In the video, she was wearing flawless makeup. Henry, I'll give you credit for some sincerity. I'll temporarily forgive the things you did that upset me, she said, her face full of pride and looking very magnanimous. As soon as the video was posted, it went viral. In less than an hour, it had hundreds of thousands of likes. Top comments. Wow. So Mr. Law's lavish spending is just to make the beauty smile. Beautiful sister, you're amazing. Can you teach us how you've got Mr. Law wrapped around your finger? I want to learn. I want to learn too. The comments section went wild, and the video's popularity remained sky high. Patricia was quickly being put on a pedestal. She wasted no time posting a second video in response. In the video, she talked about the couple's recent conflicts, carefully omitting anything that would make her look bad. As soon as it was uploaded, it immediately hit the trending searches again. Wow. Mr. Law's domineering love and forced affection. The sister is so lucky. The way rich people apologize is really something to envy. In his office, Henry stared at the trending topics and comments, feeling speechless. What are you waiting for? Take it down right now. Chapter 7. After his assistant left, Henry's phone suddenly rang. Looking at the caller ID, his expression shifted slightly. It was none other than Patricia. Henry hesitated for a moment before answering. On the other end, Patricia's voice was full of smugness. Henry, I've told you so many times, you need to answer my calls immediately. Why can't you remember that? Then her tone suddenly changed. But this time, I'm forgiving you. The things you did these past 3 days, I'm pretty satisfied with them. The gifts you prepared were heartfelt. At least, they make up for the punishment I gave you these past few days. Henry couldn't help but smile faintly. At this moment, he understood a saying all too well. When a person is overly stimulated, they might just end up laughing. You keep talking, but there's one thing I need to remind you of. When are you going to deposit the 1 billion dowry into my account? I'm telling you, the wedding is approaching. If the dowry isn't in my account before the wedding, I can't promise that I'll actually show up to the wedding. No matter how expensive the wedding dress you send me is, it won't matter. Henry rubbed his temples. It'd be better if you don't come. Henry, it's already this late, and you're still playing these games of hard to get. I know you're trying to make me angry and then surprise me later. I get it. Your intentions are clear. You can keep the surprises coming, but don't make me angry again. Got it? Otherwise, if one day you really annoy me with your tactics, I don't know what I might do. I might just disappear to the ends of the earth and you'll never be able to find me. Okay, Henry replied calmly, completely indifferent. He lifted his hand and lazily started scrolling through his moments. Then, he suddenly saw a video posted by Kevin. In the video, the family of 4 was watching fireworks, with the 2 children sitting between the adults, their faces glowing with happiness. Before long, Kevin and Patricia kissed each other, their gazes filled with affection. The caption read, "There's nothing more beautiful than this moment. For her, I'll do anything." At that moment, Patricia's voice was still ringing in his ears, and Henry felt a sudden wave of disgust. Just as the call with Patricia was ending, she added, "Oh, by the way, my dad is hosting a family dinner tonight. I've graciously decided to let you come with me, but I'll remind you, don't mess things up tonight. If you behave well, I'll give you a legitimate identity. You'll become the son-in-law of the Lin family." Chapter 8. Patricia spoke to Henry as if granting him a great favor. Henry snapped back to reality and remembered that he was indeed supposed to attend the Lin family's family dinner tonight. However, the purpose of his visit was to discuss the details of his and Fiona's wedding. "You're going to my family's house. Make sure to bring some expensive gifts. I don't want my family to look down on you," Patricia added with a hint of superiority. "That's unnecessary for you to mention. I've already prepared everything," Henry replied, before immediately hanging up the phone. In the evening, Henry rode in a car heading to the Lin family's residence. Upon arrival, the driver opened the car door for him to get out. A second car followed closely behind. Several people soon emerged from the car, each holding a gift. Henry stood at the front, dressed in a custom Italian handmade suit and Spanish calfskin leather shoes. His impressive physique, with broad shoulders, a narrow waist, and a well-defined chest, made him look extraordinarily handsome. The Lin family's servants quickly ran inside to announce, "Mr. Law is here. Mr. Law is here." A few figures appeared at the door, the first being Mr. and Mrs. Lin. They were followed by several others, one of whom was Patricia. Today, Patricia wore a white dress but had heavy makeup on. She stood in high heels so tall they seemed to defy the laws of physics. Her posture was one of superiority, and her overall appearance felt quite off. Standing beside her was another young woman. She wore a pale yellow dress and comfortable sneakers. Her hair was tied up in a high ponytail, and she wore no makeup, giving her a natural and fresh look. Her presence felt pure and elegant. In stark contrast to Patricia, this was Fiona, Patricia's half-sister. "Henry, you're here. I hope the journey wasn't too tiring." Mr. Lin greeted first. Henry offered a calm smile. His eyes briefly landed on Fiona. Patricia, completely oblivious, stepped forward and pushed Fiona aside with a sense of superiority. With an air of arrogance, she looked at Henry and said, "Have you brought everything I told you to bring?" Chapter 9. Henry furrowed his brow slightly upon seeing this. Without showing any reaction, he gently stepped away from Patricia and addressed Mr. Lin. "Uncle Lin, you're too polite. I was in a rush, so I've only brought a few modest gifts." The entourage behind him immediately stepped forward, offering the gifts. Before Mr. Lin could respond, Patricia impatiently moved forward. "Let me see what you've brought," she said eagerly, walking right up to Henry. "You haven't forgotten my instructions, right? If I think your gifts are embarrassing, I won't acknowledge you." Patricia's tone was haughty. Just then, Henry's assistant spoke up. "Mr. Law's gifts include a pair of dragon and phoenix gold hairpins worth 10 million, a pair of blue and white porcelain vases worth several million, and a limited edition luxury car worth tens of millions. Besides that, there are 10 million worth of hardware, and a pair of wedding rings worth 1 million. As Patricia listened to the assistant's introduction, her smile grew so wide it seemed to reach the heavens. Mr. and Mrs. Lin nodded approvingly. Patricia beamed and said, "Henry, I'm very satisfied with your gifts. I hereby declare that you have passed." Turning to Mr. and Mrs. Lin, she announced, "Dad, Mom, I'm officially declaring that Henry is now qualified to become our Lin family son-in-law and my husband." As soon as the words left her mouth, she excitedly moved forward, trying to link her arm with Henry's, but Henry smoothly stepped away without a sound. Mr. Lin's expression instantly darkened, his face hardening. "Patricia, what on earth are you doing? What do you mean, declaring Henry your husband?" "Dad, did I say something wrong?" Patricia asked, her expression faltering slightly. "You're terribly mistaken. Today, we're discussing the wedding between Henry and your sister." Mr. Lin's voice was sharp with disapproval. Chapter 10. Patricia stood in disbelief. What did you say?" Her mind was in a daze, unable to process the sudden shift. Mr. Lin ignored her and turned instead to Henry. "Henry, please excuse her behavior." Henry smiled lightly, then suddenly walked forward. Patricia, still processing, widened her eyes, unable to believe what she had just heard. She clung to the hope that it was all a misunderstanding, but as Henry walked past her, not sparing her a single glance, he made a beeline for Fiona. Patricia finally snapped to her senses, fury bubbling inside her. "This is impossible. It can't be. Henry, the person you wanted to marry was me. Why are you suddenly interested in that girl?" Fiona. She watched as Henry reached into a delicately crafted box and pulled out a pair of wedding rings worth millions. He slid one of the rings onto Fiona's finger, and Fiona, blushing, took the other ring and placed it on Henry's finger. Mr. Lin, seeing the scene, smiled broadly. "Henry, Fiona, come inside and sit." Mr. Lin invited enthusiastically. Henry nodded and, without hesitation, took Fiona's hand. Fiona's eyes sparkled with emotion, and she didn't hesitate to hold his hand firmly. Patricia couldn't contain herself any longer. In a fit of rage, she stormed over and shoved Fiona away. Fiona stumbled, almost falling to the ground, but Henry, quick as a flash, reached out and caught her. His expression turned cold as he stared at Patricia. "What do you think you're doing? Henry, you're doing this on purpose, aren't you? You just want to get my attention and make me jealous, right?" Patricia's face twisted into a strange expression. "Fine, I admit it, your plan worked. I'm jealous. Now you can end your little game." She stared at Henry, waiting for him to push Fiona away and come toward her, claiming her as his, handing over all the gifts she expected. But the scene she had imagined didn't unfold. Instead, Mr. Lin could no longer hold back and shouted sternly, "Enough, Patricia. Today is a joyous occasion for your sister and Henry to discuss their wedding plans. If you keep causing trouble, don't blame me for cutting off your financial support." Patricia froze, stunned by the unexpected rebuke from her father, who had always been so gentle with her. By the time she regained her composure, Fiona had already linked arms with Henry and entered the living room. Patricia stood outside alone, a bitter feeling of abandonment crashing over her. "This isn't real. It's a dream. I must be dreaming," she mumbled to herself. She raised her hand and pinched her palm. The sharp pain quickly surged through her. "It hurts. No, this can't be real," she whispered, still in disbelief. Inside the living room, Mr. and Mrs. Lin were chatting happily with Henry. They had already discussed most of the wedding details. Suddenly, Mr. Lin asked. Henry, when will your parents be coming back to the country? Mr. Lin, my parents are already aware of the wedding and are catching the earliest flight tomorrow morning, Henry replied with a smile. Throughout the conversation, Fiona acted like a quiet, obedient little cat. She sat next to Henry, and Henry kept his hand firmly clasped around hers, the warmth of his hand giving her a sense of security. This feeling made Fiona feel grounded, and she instinctively tightened her grip on his hand. That's wonderful, Mr. Lin said with a smile. Once you return, discuss the details with your parents, and if all is well, we can set the wedding date for 3 days from now. Sounds good, Henry agreed. As the conversation came to a close, Mr. Lin said, Fiona, see Henry out. Fiona nodded and, intending to pull her hand away from Henry's grasp, found that he had no intention of letting go. She looked up at him, and their gazes met. In that moment, Henry simply smiled and led her toward the door. Fiona's heart raced, and she couldn't stop herself from feeling the flutter of excitement. As they stepped outside, approaching the car, they spotted Patricia standing nearby. Her eyes were red, her expression pitiful. Henry, tell me this is all fake, right? It's just a misunderstanding, right? Chapter 11. Henry couldn't be bothered to respond to Patricia. He had just lifted Fiona's hand. The rings they were both wearing sparkled under the light. The brilliance of the rings immediately stung Patricia's eyes and pierced her pride. You're definitely doing this to provoke me. You want me to marry you. So you had my dad and that little girl cooperate with you in this act, right? I'm sorry, I don't have time for that, Henry said bluntly, showing no hint of courtesy. And I've already told you, the person I'm marrying is Fiona, not you. Henry knew that if you love someone, you should be open and honest about it, not like in the past when he had blindly fallen for Patricia, only to be humiliated and treated like a fool, a simp, with his love and dignity trampled on. Patricia's jealous gaze shifted to Fiona. You little slut. It's you who seduced Henry, right? Tell me, what tricks did you use to get him to marry you? She lunged forward, intending to strike Fiona. Fiona's face changed slightly. Sister, it's not like that. Just as Patricia was about to slap Fiona, Henry stepped in front of her, blocking the blow. He grabbed Patricia's wrist firmly. Enough of this. With a swift motion, he shoved Patricia aside. Patricia stumbled back, her eyes wide in disbelief. She never imagined that the men who had once been so obedient to her would actually lay a hand on her. Fiona, are you okay? Did you get scared? Henry asked with genuine concern. Patricia's jealousy flared, her eyes turning red. Everything that was once hers had been taken by Fiona. Henry, I know this is just a game, right? You're trying to make me jealous because you love me, right? Patricia continued, unwilling to accept the situation. Henry completely ignored her and, taking Fiona's hand, walked toward the car. Like a gentleman, he opened the car door for Fiona. Tonight, you should come to my place. You can try on your wedding dress tomorrow and see if it fits. Henry had seen the jealousy and hatred in Patricia's eyes earlier. With her temper, he couldn't be sure she wouldn't do something rash, so it was safer to keep Fiona close. Fiona's cheeks flushed slightly. Okay, I'll follow your arrangements. Once they were in the car, the convoy quickly drove away. Patricia stood there, disheveled, her carefully applied makeup ruined. Just as she was about to lose herself in despair, a voice suddenly cut through the air. Mommy, Mommy. The clear voices of two children instantly brought Patricia back to reality. Patricia's expression immediately shifted to panic. She looked up to see Kevin walking toward her, holding the hands of two children. She quickly walked toward him. What are you doing here? Kevin smiled. The kids miss you. They've been asking to see you, and since you haven't replied to my calls or messages, I came to find you. Mommy, is this Grandpa's house? I really want to go inside and see Grandpa and Grandma. The two children spoke in unison. Eli, Ollie, Grandpa and Grandma aren't home today. Let's come back another day, Patricia said, giving Kevin a meaningful glance as she composed herself. She wanted him to quickly take the kids and leave, but just as she was about to walk away, the two children suddenly asked, Mommy, do you think that person inside is Grandpa? Patricia turned her head and looked at the person who had just walked out of the house. It was her father. Chapter 12. Fiona immediately panicked, urging Kevin to quickly get the two children into the car. Only when they were safely away from Lynn's house did she finally let out a sigh of relief. Mom, what's wrong? Are you okay? One of the children, named Eli, asked. I'm fine. Patricia tried to act calm, but her unease was evident. Lynn's family was strict, and if Lynn's father found out that she had had twins out of wedlock, it would be a scandal. He would definitely disown her. She had her position in the Lynn group now, and her main source of income came from them. Both the children and Kevin depended on that income. If her financial support was cut off, she would truly be left to fend for herself. Kevin noticed Patricia's distracted state and couldn't help but ask, Patricia, what's wrong? What happened today? I told you I'm fine. Didn't you hear me? Patricia snapped irritably. Kevin was taken aback, feeling a pang in his heart. In his memories, Patricia had always been gentle with him, never raising her voice. This sudden outburst left him feeling uneasy, but as a man being kept by her, he couldn't afford to anger her further. He just bit his tongue, staying silent. Back home, Patricia resumed her dutiful wife and mother persona, bathing the children. Seeing her like this reassured Kevin. This scene felt warm to him. After taking a video, he quickly edited it and posted it with a caption bragging, "Patricia, having you around is the greatest comfort for me and the kids." Just as the post went live, Patricia stormed over to him, her face filled with anger. "Delete it. Patricia, what's wrong? Why should I delete it? Everything was fine." Patricia snatched the phone from his hands and deleted the post without a second thought. "From now on, you're not allowed to post things like that. I won't allow you to provoke Henry." Kevin was a little taken aback. "What happened? Did you have a fight with Henry?" "Henry, he's going to marry another woman," Patricia said, her voice low and despondent. Hearing this, Kevin's heart couldn't help but leap with joy. His patience had finally paid off. He immediately soothed her. "Patricia, if he's marrying another woman, it's because he's blind and doesn't know your worth. But it doesn't matter. Without him, you, me, and Eli and Ollie will be able to live openly." "Shut up." Before he could finish, Patricia interrupted him angrily. "What do you know? Henry loves me. He loves me deeply. This is all just a game he's playing. Everyone in the capital knows that Henry is my loyal servant. Who else could he possibly love besides me? When we were at our house earlier, he was definitely acting to make me angry. Do you believe me? If I call him right now, he'll come running back to see me, and not only that, but he'll kneel in front of me and beg for my forgiveness." Kevin's optimism was instantly extinguished like a bucket of cold water. Patricia, however, didn't seem to notice. She picked up her phone and was about to call Henry. Even though the call hadn't gone through yet, she could already vividly imagine Henry on his knees in front of her, begging for mercy. The thought made her secretly excited. At that moment, there was a knock at the door. Patricia's heart leapt. It must be Henry coming to find me. She put down her phone and opened the door. "Hello, I'm Henry's lawyer. I've been asked to deliver this legal notice to you on his behalf." Chapter 13. If you don't want to be sued, please compensate for the damaged wedding dress worth $30 million as soon as possible, the lawyer's letter read. Otherwise, we'll see you in court. Patricia's face instantly changed. She had thought it was Henry coming to apologize, but instead, she had received a legal notice. Meanwhile, in the largest bridal shop in the capital, the store manager wore a flattering smile. "Henry, the wedding dress, Starry Rain song, designed by Master July has been airshipped here." "Good. Let her try it on," Henry said indifferently. The manager was struck speechless by Fiona's beauty the moment he saw her. Fiona had a tall figure, fair skin, and a delicate face even without any makeup. Her demeanor was polite and graceful, in stark contrast to the other women who had come to try on wedding dresses. No wonder Henry had chosen her as his bride. The manager quietly praised her in his heart. Fiona glanced back at Henry. "Shall I go?" Her eyes sparkled with a playful and cute expression. In fact, Fiona and Henry had known each other for more than 10 years. Their relationship wasn't as unfamiliar as one might think. It's just that they hadn't interacted much in their daily lives, and the change in their relationship now was something Fiona was still adjusting to. However, one thing was certain: Fiona was willing to marry Henry. This secret had always been hidden in her heart, unknown to anyone else. Henry watched Fiona walk away, a faint smile playing on his lips. In truth, there was another reason why he had chosen Fiona. In his previous life, the last thing he saw before he died was a tear from Fiona's eye. At the time, it felt inexplicable. So, after his rebirth, he immediately investigated this sister. Sure enough, as Henry was lost in his thoughts, his phone rang. It was Patricia calling. Without a second thought, he pressed the hang up button. Then, the phone bombarded with calls. Henry was getting frustrated, so he simply blocked her number. "Henry, your bride is here." The bridal shop manager's voice broke his thoughts. Henry looked up, and his pupils involuntarily widened. Fiona stood before him in a pure white wedding dress, adorned with diamonds, shimmering brilliantly. The dress was minimalist in design, but on Fiona, it exuded an almost sacred aura. Fiona's shoulders were slightly exposed, elegant yet modest. Her bare face showed a subtle flush, making her beauty utterly mesmerizing. Henry couldn't help but stare, a little dazed. Fiona blushed slightly. "Henry, does this wedding dress suit me?" Henry quickly nodded. "It suits you perfectly." Fiona, flustered by the compliment, felt a little shy. Before they left, Henry instructed the store staff, "Our wedding is in 3 days. Make sure to take good care of the dress." The store manager immediately nodded. After the previous incident, she was determined not to be careless. "Don't worry, Henry, there won't be any issues this time." Henry took an umbrella and led Fiona out of the store. Noticing that Fiona seemed a little stiff, Henry couldn't help but say, "Fiona, we're about to become husband and wife. You don't need to be so reserved around me." Fiona glanced at the man known as the rich and powerful Henry. Her eyes flickered slightly, and then she suddenly asked, "Henry, why do you want to marry me?" Henry was slightly taken aback. He hadn't expected Fiona to ask this question so quickly. After recovering, he smiled mischievously and looked at Fiona. Then why did you agree to marry me? Fiona felt a bit embarrassed. You were the one who proposed first. You answer my question first. Fiona was serious now. Seeing how serious Fiona was, Henry stopped his teasing and said, do you remember more than 10 years ago, on a day just like today, when a little boy fell into a pool and a little girl saved him? As soon as the words left his mouth, Fiona's eyes widened. I know about that. But she paused for a few seconds. When you fell into the pool and woke up, you said it was my sister who saved you. I didn't know the truth back then, but now I do. The one who saved me was you, wasn't it? For all these years, Henry had believed it was Patricia who had saved him, and that's why he had been so obedient to her. He had almost drowned, and in his moment of despair, he had seen a little girl with a bamboo pole pulling him out of the water. He had passed out before he could see her face clearly, and afterward, Patricia had claimed credit for it. Over the years, it was because of the life-saving grace that Henry had been so compliant with her. He never expected that Patricia had been using him all along and that he would die with regret in his previous life. Fiona nodded. It was me. Why didn't you tell me back then? If I had known, I wouldn't have wasted so much time. Henry suddenly said. Fiona replied. I actually wanted to tell you, but when I realized I liked you, you were already my sister's boyfriend, so I couldn't bring myself to say anything. Henry suddenly smiled. You liked me. When did this happen? Fiona's face turned red. Well, the two of them chatted along the way, and the awkwardness between them seemed to fade away. Fiona felt much more at ease now. When they returned to the residence, they freshened up and then slept in separate rooms. That night, Fiona had sweet dreams. The next morning, as soon as Henry woke up, his phone rang. He answered the call. Henry, quick, check out what's happening on a certain video app. Something's gone wrong. Chapter 14. The call was from Henry's close friend, Alex. Henry frowned as he listened to Alex's words. He knew Patricia wouldn't let this go easily. Without any hesitation, he opened the app to check, and sure enough, a trending topic popped up. Breaking. Henry abandoned Patricia, deliberately created a deep affection persona. Henry clicked on the post. In the first video, Patricia, heavily made up and impeccably dressed, appeared with red eyes as she cried and vented. Everyone, I've been betrayed by my own sister. Henry promised to marry me, but then he turned around and married my sister. They've been secretly together all along. She sobbed dramatically. In the video, she spun a web of lies and distortions. How could someone who loved me so much suddenly change his heart? Now I understand. Men always get tired of the old and seek the new. Patricia's video today was completely different from the one where she had been boasting a few days ago. The comments quickly flooded in. So disgusting. How could a sister steal her older sister's boyfriend? Is she even human? I used to think Henry was a loyal man, but now it looks like he's just a scumbag. Sisters, we must speak up for our sister. Hashtag girls help girls. Exactly. From now on, we will never buy anything from Law Group. Let them go bankrupt and their stock prices crash. And we must expose that third party. I want to see what kind of person steals her own sister's boyfriend. The comments section quickly became a war zone. Henry's face darkened as he read through the comments. His fists clenched, and his eyes flashed with cold fury. After a moment, he called his assistant. Get this trending topic taken down. Then, he called Alex. I need you to investigate something for me. Also, look into a guy named Kevin. Alex answered confidently. Don't worry, investigating people is my specialty. I'll get on it right away. Meanwhile, Fiona had just walked out of her room. Her phone was ringing non-stop. As soon as she answered, a barrage of insults erupted from the other end, as though she had been doxxed. Henry saw this and said to Fiona, turn off your phone for now. I'll handle this. Patricia had crossed a line with Henry, and this time, he wasn't planning to let her off so easily. Okay. Fiona naturally trusted Henry without question. After quickly gathering a few things, Henry headed out. As he was leaving, Fiona called out to him, be careful. I will. Henry replied with a light smile. Once outside, he dialed Patricia's number. Her voice came through the phone. Finally, you're willing to call me. Where are you? Let's talk. What do you think? I'm at our home. Home. Patricia chuckled. You bought that multi-million-dollar wedding house for us, right? Well, I'm right here, in our wedding house. Henry's face darkened at her words. I'll be there soon. After hanging up, Patricia smiled smugly. Suddenly, a voice echoed from the room. Patricia, you really know how to work your magic. Looks like Henry called you all on his own. Does it surprise you? Henry is a total simp when it comes to Patricia. He can't resist her. Patricia smiled even more at the flattery. This time, she was sure she had him wrapped around her finger. Of course, he's doing all this just to make me jealous. All I have to do is play my cards right, and he'll come crawling back to apologize. Wow, Patricia, you're amazing. Her two friends looked on in admiration. Patricia laughed. Just wait, you'll see me in action. Henry arrived at the location. The multi-million-dollar wedding house he had bought was practically ready to move in. Everything had been prepared, just waiting for the wedding day when he and Fiona would live there together. But what he didn't expect was for Patricia to show up there. Fiona, the rightful owner of the house, hadn't even moved in yet, so what right did Patricia have to be there? Henry drove up, noticing that the door was ajar, with signs of forced entry on the lock. As he entered, he immediately sensed a fragrance in the air. Henry frowned slightly. At that moment, a voice came from within. Henry, you're really lucky. Getting Patricia to cook for you. It's so enviable. This is the first time Patricia has ever cooked for another man. The two women speaking were Patricia's close friends. When Patricia heard the noise, she walked out of the kitchen, wearing an apron and looking every bit the perfect wife. Just a second ago, she had been busy cooking. The table was already set with several dishes. She looked at Henry with a hostess-like smile. Henry, have a seat. The food will be ready soon. What are you up to now? Henry said bluntly, without holding back. Patricia wasn't offended by his tone. Instead, she smiled even more sweetly. Henry, didn't you always say you wanted to try the food I made for you? Well, I've made it. So come and taste it. Henry had, in fact, imagined a future where Patricia would cook for him after they got married. He had dreamt of her cooking for him, and how happy and fulfilled that would make him. But in reality, it had always been Henry cooking for her. No matter what she asked for, Henry would always go out of his way to fulfill her wishes. He had done all this to prove his love for her, even making sure the whole capital knew how deeply he loved Patricia. But now, all of that was over. Henry glanced at the dishes on the table. Every single one was garnished with green onions. He frowned. You know I'm allergic to green onions, don't you? If you don't want them, I can pick them out for you, Patricia hurriedly said. The two friends immediately chimed in. Henry, don't be so picky. Patricia is offering you a way out. Just take it. Who doesn't know how much you love Patricia? You're so lucky, man. You won't find a woman as beautiful and virtuous as her anywhere else. Chapter 15. The two women continued to talk, oblivious to the fact that Henry's expression had turned dark and stormy. Did I ask you to speak? Henry's voice was low and menacing. In the past, Henry had often been with Patricia and had gotten along well with her friends. They had mistakenly assumed they were on the same level as Henry, thinking they could order him around freely, but they were wrong. They had never been on the same level as Henry. Now, they finally felt the pressure of being in the presence of someone above them. Their faces went pale, and they were suddenly too scared to speak. Patricia froze for a moment, then suddenly threw her chopsticks onto the table. Henry, enough with the act. Stop pretending to be so powerful in front of me. I came here today to forgive you. I promise you, if you publicly announce that you're marrying me in 3 days, I'll take down the video. She continued with a cold determination in her voice. Also, retract the lawyer's letter and transfer $50 million to me to make me happy. Then, I'll pretend this never happened. From now on, I will be your wife. Henry, she fixed her gaze on him, full of certainty. When Henry didn't respond, she softened her tone. Henry, I really do love you. I didn't want to push things this far, but, if you marry me, I'll waive the $100 million dowry. But you have to give me some shares in Law Group. Also, I'll cut back on helping Kevin take care of his kids and give you a child of our own. You know how hard it is for a woman to carry a child for 10 months. I'm willing to bear that burden for you. You should see how sincere I am. Listening to her, Henry couldn't help but laugh. I don't need you to give me a child. I didn't come here to discuss this with you. What I came to tell you is this house is mine. If you don't leave right now, I'll call the police and report you for trespassing. You'll be facing a few days behind bars. As for the lawyer's letter, I won't be retracting it unless you return my money. If not, I'll see you in court. Patricia's two friends became visibly nervous after hearing this. They exchanged uneasy glances and then spoke up. Patricia, if there's nothing else, we should leave. Yeah, I have something to do too, one of them added. Without waiting for Patricia to respond, they quickly made their exit. Once they were gone, Patricia felt utterly humiliated. She had intended to regain face in front of her friends, but instead, she had embarrassed herself even more. Henry, you're going too far, she snapped. Then, with a new sense of confidence, she added, I don't believe you'll really call the police. I'll let you in on a little secret. I have plenty of ways to deal with you. The video I posted earlier was just a reminder for you. I have even juicier details coming your way. Henry sneered. Let the juicy details come out. You have 3 seconds to leave. Otherwise, you'll stay. And as for the lawsuit, if you don't believe me, we'll see each other in court. 3, 2. Patricia was shocked by Henry's cold response. The man who had once been so obedient to her had now turned into someone issuing orders. How dare you, Henry? Patricia said coldly. 1. When Henry counted down to 1, he immediately took out his phone and dialed the police. Patricia's expression froze. Wait, just wait, Henry. I'll show you what happens next. She angrily left the multi-million-dollar mansion that had once been hers. As she exited, she turned around and yelled furiously, Henry, I will make you beg me to come back. Not long after, Her phone rang. It was Kevin calling. She answered in frustration. Kevin's voice came through. Patricia, the kids are crying. They said they miss you. Hearing Kevin's voice, Patricia felt more irritated. You can't even handle 2 kids, and you still expect me to be impressed. What use are you? Patricia, what's wrong with you? You never used to talk to me like that. Did I say something wrong? You're a grown man who doesn't make money or support the family. You can't even take care of 2 kids. Are you useless? Patricia scolded. Kevin's face alternated between pale and red with embarrassment. He felt deeply aggrieved. On the other end of the phone, Patricia heard the 2 kids' voices crying. Mom, we miss you. When are you coming back? The sound of the children crying suddenly gave Patricia an idea. She had just come up with a plan to deal with Henry. Henry, if you have no mercy, don't blame me for being ruthless, Patricia thought to herself. She softened her tone as she replied, I'll be home soon. Just wait for me. Kevin's heart lifted upon hearing this, thinking that maybe Patricia still cared about him and the family. Around noon, Henry had the new house cleaned up once again. Then, he contacted the property management. The property apologized for the incident and promised that such a thing would never happen again. Henry didn't want to waste any more time with them. Alex had already gathered information and asked to meet. Half an hour later, Henry sat across from Alex. Henry, I'm really glad to see you finally waking up. It's not too late. Not too late, Alex said with a sincere smile. Henry couldn't help but feel a little emotional. As Henry's close friend, Alex had tried to advise him many times in the past. He had told Henry that Patricia was not a good person. Someone who truly loved him wouldn't humiliate him in public like that. Back then, Henry had been too involved in the situation to see the truth. When he transferred the assets of Law Group to Patricia's name, Alex had argued with him. He even threatened to cut ties with Henry if he didn't listen. But nothing had stopped Henry from going down the wrong path. In his past life, Henry had made mistake after mistake, leading to a tragic end. Now, seeing Alex, Henry felt a deep sense of gratitude and nostalgia for his old friend. Thank you, Alex, Henry said from the bottom of his heart. Alex was momentarily taken aback, then smirked. Get out of here. What's with the politeness? Helping you with this little thing is nothing. The information's on the iPad. Take a look. Alex tossed an iPad over to Henry. Henry chuckled and took the iPad. His words of thanks weren't just for this favor. He was also thanking Alex for the guidance in his past life. What are you waiting for? Open it. The info inside will blow your mind, Alex said with a grin. Chapter 16. A sly glint flashed in Henry's eyes. The truth was, Henry had already figured some things out. He opened the files on the iPad, which contained several videos. The videos showed Kevin spending time with Patricia and the 2 kids, capturing their sweet family moments. There were many videos in which the 2 children clearly called Patricia Mom and Kevin Dad. The footage wasn't just from today but included older recordings as well. Have you been investigating me all along? Henry asked. Alex, worried that Henry might misunderstand, quickly explained. Henry, don't get me wrong. I just didn't want you to be deceived or taken advantage of. So I started looking into this stuff. Well done, Henry said quickly. Alex froze for a moment at Henry's words. The nervous look on his face instantly disappeared. I thought you'd be mad at me, Alex said, relieved. I should be thanking you, not getting angry, Henry responded. Alex suddenly became serious. By the way, there's also some hospital records showing Patricia giving birth, as well as videos of Kevin accompanying her. You should take a good look at them. Nice work, Alex. You managed to get all of this, Henry said. Alex chuckled. When you give me a task, I take it seriously. After Henry finished going through the materials, a cold smile appeared on his face. He put the documents away. Alex said, Henry, leave this to me. I have the connections. The moment you give the word, I'll release this information and turn everything Patricia has said on the internet around. I'll have to trouble you with this, Henry said. Don't be so polite. We're brothers, Alex replied. The 2 chatted for a while longer, and then Henry checked the time. Alex, when I get married, you'll be my best man. Of course, Alex agreed. After their brief conversation, they parted ways. Henry checked the time again and realized that his parents were about to arrive at the capital's airport. He planned to bring Fiona along to pick them up. When Fiona heard this, she felt a little embarrassed. Henry smiled and teased. Even an ugly bride has to meet her in-laws. And besides, my wife is beautiful. Fiona couldn't help but laugh at Henry's teasing, feeling a little more at ease. Before heading to the airport, Fiona bought flowers and gifts for Henry's parents. The couple headed towards the airport together. Meanwhile, another video online began to gain traction. Patricia appeared on a short video platform, crying while holding the 2 kids, claiming that Henry had abandoned his wife and children. The 2 kids played along, continuously calling Henry Dad in the video. Henry, don't you want us anymore? Are you really going to abandon us like this? Daddy, the children cried out, tears streaming down their faces. The comments section exploded. Wow, I didn't expect Henry to be such a scumbag. He abandoned his kids before marriage and now he's out there fooling around with another woman. This is too much. We must speak up for our sister. I suggest we organize a group to go to the law group and demand justice for Patricia. Who's in the capital? Let's organize. I'm the first to sign up. The comment quickly garnered over 100,000 likes. I'm in. I don't have class in the afternoon. I'm going. People began to rally together. The entire law group was in a state of turmoil. Meanwhile, Patricia, the mastermind behind it all, was quite pleased with the outcome. As expected, by the afternoon, a crowd had gathered outside law group's building, waving signs and chanting, "Henry, scumbag, come out. Henry, scumbag, get out here." Many media outlets had arrived on the scene. Patricia, disguised, stood behind the crowd, watching the commotion unfold. A smug smile spread across her face. "Henry, let's see how you're going to handle this." She recorded a video and sent it to Henry, along with a voice message. "I told you I'd make you regret it." At that moment, Henry was at the airport. Patricia wasn't the only one sending him this video. Alex and the assistant from law group also sent it. When Henry saw the video, he furrowed his brows. Alex, in the video, was furious. "This bitch is really something. Using the kids like that, she has no humanity." "Henry, give the order. Just say the word and I'll make sure this bitch pays the price." Hearing Alex's angry tone, Henry replied calmly, "Take action." Alex, on the other end of the line, immediately became excited. "You can count on me, Henry. I'll make sure this bitch begs for mercy." A slight smile curled on Henry's lips. Fiona noticed the smile but didn't understand what was happening. "It's nothing," Henry said with a grin when he saw her look. Fiona suddenly looked up and saw two familiar figures approaching. "Henry, isn't that your mom and dad?" The two well-dressed middle-aged figures were walking toward them. "Yes, that's my mom and dad," Henry replied. Fiona felt a bit nervous, taking a deep breath. At that moment, Henry took her hand in his. This simple gesture instantly made Fiona feel more at ease. She glanced at Henry, her eyes flickering. The two exchanged a smile and walked toward his parents. "Hello, uncle and aunt," Fiona said with a radiant smile as she handed them the flowers and gifts she had prepared. Henry's parents, who had met Fiona before, smiled warmly at her. "Fiona, we're going to be family soon. No need to be so polite," his mother said with a smile. His father also added, "That's right, your aunt's right." Both of them smiled, clearly happy with their future daughter-in-law. Fiona nodded politely. "I understand, aunt." At that moment, Henry chimed in, "Mom, Dad, now that you have a daughter-in-law, you're not going to care about your son anymore." His parents had been focused on Fiona earlier, and Henry couldn't resist teasing them. His father laughed. "You're jealous of your own wife now. Let's go home." "Right, let's go home," his mother agreed. The four of them headed home together. Meanwhile, as Alex began releasing some documents online, the public opinion began to shift. Chapter 17. Alex, with his wealth and connections, directly reached out to a major influencer to blow the whistle. Soon, the truth about Patricia was exposed to the point where even her underwear was laid bare. People flocked to Patricia's account, hurling insults at her. "I knew it. You look like someone who's up to no good. How dare you slander Henry? So it was you who stole a man. Having kids before marriage? You're not a good woman at all. You're making all women ashamed. Good thing I didn't support you earlier." The comments continued to flood in, all tearing into Patricia. On the back end, the people attacking Patricia were no less numerous. The group that had been protesting outside law group suddenly felt utterly embarrassed. One by one, they left, abandoning their signs and fleeing in disgrace. Meanwhile, Patricia had become the target of online scorn. Alex was pleased with the result. After reporting the outcome to Henry, he wore a satisfied smile. "Henry, this time you really owe me a big favor." "Of course, I'll introduce you to a bridesmaid when the time comes," Henry replied. "It's a deal." As they chatted, Henry received a call from Lynn's parents, who apologized to him. They had never expected their daughter to be such a disgrace. Not only had she been with another man, but she'd also had children before marriage. Such a daughter was no longer welcome in the Lynn family. They publicly declared in the newspapers that they were severing all ties with Patricia. From now on, Patricia had no relation to the Lynn family, and she was expelled from Lynn Group. Meanwhile, Patricia had been holed up at home for the past few days, too scared to go outside. Kevin, with the two children, was living in constant fear. One day, Kevin went to Patricia and said, "Patricia, to avoid dragging the kids down with you, it's best if you leave my place." Patricia's eyes widened in shock. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. "What did you just say? Your place? I bought this house for you with my own money. This is my house." Kevin couldn't hold back anymore. "Look at you now. You're nothing but a madwoman. Who would want someone like you? And the house is in my name. So get out. I thought you would take care of me and the kids forever since you gave me 2 children and were the daughter of Lynn Group. But now that you've been kicked out, you're useless. Do you get it?" Patricia felt as if her mind was spinning. her head buzzing. She stared at Kevin in disbelief. What did you just say? I said you're an old, useless woman, a madwoman, and now you have no value, Kevin said coldly. At that, Patricia seemed to lose it entirely. She lunged at Kevin, slapping and scratching at him. How dare you say that? You eat my food, drink my drinks, and now you dare speak to me like that? I'll fight you. The two of them quickly became tangled in a vicious struggle. The two children stood by, crying in terror. In the chaos, Kevin kicked Patricia to the ground. She let out a shrill scream. You bitch, you deserve to die, Kevin shouted, his eyes bloodshot as he marched toward her and grabbed her by the neck. Chapter 18. Dad, Mom, don't fight anymore. Don't fight. In a panic, Patricia grabbed a pair of scissors and stabbed them directly into Kevin's neck. Blood splattered, staining Patricia's face. Patricia screamed in terror, quickly letting go of the scissors. But Kevin's pupils dilated, and the blood from his neck gushed uncontrollably. Patricia was frozen, completely horrified by what she had just done. She had no idea what to do next. In a daze, she muttered, "What do I do now? What do I do? Mom is bad. She killed Dad. Bad mom." Hearing this, Patricia's pupils turned bloodshot. You're calling me a bad mom? She shouted, her voice trembling with anger. You all call me that. Her face turned red with fury, and she began laughing in a deranged manner. You call me bad? I gave birth to you. I raised you, and now you dare to call me bad. She grabbed a lighter from the table, locking the door. She then set the sofa on fire. As the flames grew larger, the entire room quickly became engulfed in fire. The two children cried out in desperation, but Patricia continued to laugh manically. Soon, the fire consumed everything, swallowing the family whole. By the time someone noticed and called the fire department, it was too late. The entire family of 4 had perished, leaving this world together. When Henry heard the news, he didn't react much. To him, this was just a form of karma. At this moment, his wedding with Fiona was about to begin. As the wedding march played, he took Fiona's hand from Lynn's father and walked toward a future filled with happiness. When the officiant asked, "Beautiful bride, do you take this groom as your husband?" "I do," Fiona answered firmly. "And groom, do you take this beautiful bride as your wife?" Henry looked into Fiona's eyes and answered with conviction, "I do. I will love her for the rest of my life."